North Korea. North Korea will be able to reach the United States with nuclear weapons in about 5 years. Decisive action must be taken before they reach this capability. China should be mollified by prior agreement to withdraw U.S. forces and to demilitarize Korea after reunification. North Korea should be offered reunification with South Korea under very favorable terms, and the issue should be forced by an embargo, so they are either starved out or capitulate. If their army of 1.5 million men attack, they will run out of supplies in 2 or 3 weeks, be surrounded, at which point the North Korean state will collapse. If necessary, bribe China and in a Machiavellian manner, sacrifice Taiwan to achieve this goal. North Korea shall not be allowed to destroy U.S. cities with nuclear weapons. More on this topic later. Finally, it is time to enfold Russia into the European Union, into the EU, and create a super NATO to counterbalance China and enforce the peace of the world. Russia's impending economic collapse is very near, and this is the leverage we need. It will not happen overnight, but we should begin preparing the ground and using diplomatic and subtle bribery to accomplish our aims. Diplomacy and bribery. An economic and military union that begins in Alaska, moving east, encompasses the entire United States, the entirety of Europe, and all 11 time zones of Russia, ending in Vladivostok, will be sufficient to maintain the current post-World War II order for another 70 years or more. None of these scenarios need to involve open war. None of these scenarios, either with the Saudis, with China, North Korea, etc., none of these scenarios need to involve open war and large-scale violence, since all of this can be navigated by diplomacy, economic pressure, and the selective use of violence on a small scale. The United States should use our long-term industrial policy and our energy policy to create leverage against our enemies. Containment and economic pressure worked fantastically, if however long, in the Cold War and can succeed today. The old axiom holds true today. If you seek peace, then prepare for war. The U.S. cannot afford to fail economically, because this means military inferiority and consequently leads to collapse of the current world order established at the end of World War II, which in turn leads to every man for himself, which in turn leads to open warfare between numerous nations using nuclear weapons. Our government must be reformed to better promote the general welfare of our people and the world. And this can only be accomplished through a grassroots tax revolt. The failure of the Bernie Sanders and Donald Trump movements must not lead to 8 more years of the same old status quo. This would be disastrous. We must grasp the reins of destiny in our own hands and join left-wing students and young people together with right-wing workers and other disaffected people who are both groups are crying out for relief from this dysfunctional status quo. This is a political system of legalized bribery and extortion. The oligarchy has controlled the agenda using a divide and conquer strategy that has worked perfectly. Free trade and deindustrialization has created a hellish neoliberal economy of fast food jobs and dollar stores. If this continues without correction, the current world order will collapse and a cascade of events will destabilize the peace of the world. The 28th Amendment will decouple the influence of money from politics and slowly unravel the current political process of legalized bribery and extortion so that a Teddy Roosevelt-like period of reform can revitalize our economic system and renew our democracy. The lessons of history could not be more clear. We have entered a post-ideological world, however chaotic, a post-ideological world where pragmatism and economic reality should guide decisions and events. There are two ideas that we must keep in mind as we journey through this maze of the 21st century. Those who forget the lessons of the past are bound to repeat them, and the future belongs to those who plan for it.